Direct News TV. May 7, 2024. Israel's war on Gaza live. Israel seizes Rafah crossing, cuts off aid route. Israel's seizure and closing of the Rafah crossing in Gaza raises concerns that already scarce supplies will be further depleted and lead to a catastrophic disaster. The incursion comes after Israel said it would continue its military operation in Rafah even after Hamas said it had accepted a Gaza ceasefire proposal put forward by Qatari and Egyptian mediators. UN chief tells the international community to act to halt Gaza tragedy. In his speech, UN Secretary-General Guterres urged Israel's allies to press its leadership to stop the war on Gaza. I appeal to all those with influence over Israel to do everything in their power to help avert even more tragedy. The international community has a shared responsibility to promote a humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and a massive surge in life-saving aid, he said. It is time for the parties to seize the opportunity and secure a deal for the sake of their own people. Hold him accountable for genocide, Tlaib urges ICC arrest warrant for Netanyahu. Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian-American lawmaker in Congress, has called on the International Criminal Court, ICC, to issue arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister and other senior Israeli officials over Israel's military conduct in Gaza. The Democrat called on the ICC to finally hold them accountable for this genocide, as is obviously warranted by these well-documented violations of the Genocide Convention under international law. In a statement posted on X, Tlaib, who currently serves as the representative for Michigan's 12th Congressional District, said, "There is nowhere safe in Gaza. Nearly 80% of the civilian infrastructure has been destroyed. There is no feasible evacuation plan, and the Israeli government is only trying to provide a false pretense of safety to try to maintain legal cover at the International Court of Justice. Netanyahu knows that he will only stay in power as long as the fighting continues." She added, "Many of my colleagues are going to express concern and horror at the crimes against humanity that are about to unfold, even though they just voted to send Netanyahu billions more in weapons. Do not be misled. They gave their consent for these atrocities, and our country is actively participating in genocide." For months, Netanyahu made his intent to invade Rafah clear, yet the majority of my colleagues and President Biden sent more weapons to enable the massacre, Tlaib wrote. Initiative for agreement has to come from Biden, Israeli Society. Gershon Baskin, Middle East director with the International Communities Organization, says there is a catch-22 regarding Israel and Hamas reaching an agreement. Israel will not agree to any plan that puts an end to this war, and Hamas will not agree to any plan that does not put an end to the war, he told Al Jazeera. Baskin argued the initiative for an agreement has to come from U.S. President Joe Biden and the Israeli Society, pointing to an increasing number of anti-government demonstrations in Israel. "We understand that the U.S. withheld a shipment of weapons to Israel. This needs to be an American policy now, and Israel needs to be told that the U.S. will no longer fuel the war that's happening in Gaza," he said. "We need a change of leadership in Israel. We need to go to elections as soon as possible, because with Netanyahu in power, we are never going to see an end to this war and will probably never see a return of the hostages, which is tragic," Baskin added. "Haven't civilians suffered enough death and destruction?" Guterres asks. The UN chief warns Israel that an assault on Rafah, where 1.4 million Palestinians are sheltering, would be a strategic mistake, a political calamity and a humanitarian nightmare. After more than 1,100 Israelis killed in the Hamas terror attacks of October 7, after more than 34,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza, haven't we seen enough? Haven't civilians suffered enough death and destruction? Make no mistake, a full-scale assault on Rafah would be a humanitarian catastrophe, Guterres said. He also demanded that Israel reopen the land crossings it closed so desperately needed aid supplies can get into Gaza, where famine has already taken hold in the territory's north. The closure of both the Rafah and Kerem Abu Salem crossings is especially damaging to an already dire humanitarian situation. They must be reopened immediately. Amnesty says Rafah assault to further compound unspeakable suffering of Palestinians. The rights group has called on the international community to pressure Israel to immediately halt its ground operations in Rafah and ensure unfettered access for humanitarian aid in Gaza. The Israeli military must also rescind their order to civilians to evacuate eastern Rafah unless they can guarantee the population's safety, which is highly unlikely under the intense military attacks that Israel has been relentlessly conducting for 7 months across the entire Gaza Strip. Erica Guevara-Rosas, Amnesty International Senior Director of Research, Advocacy, Policy, and Campaigns, said in a statement. Guevara-Rosas said Israel's long-threatened, large-scale ground operation in Rafah would further compound the unspeakable suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza. Palestinian civilians in Gaza are human beings, not pawns to be moved around a chessboard at the whim of the Israeli authorities. The notion that displaced civilians are safe anywhere in Gaza has proved a fallacy time and again as the Israeli military has attacked areas it had previously designated as safe. I'm disturbed and distressed by Israeli military operations in Rafah, UN Chief. The UN Secretary-General has appealed to all parties involved in the Gaza war to do everything possible to get a ceasefire deal done and prevent further deaths and destruction after 7 months of war. I reiterate my call to both parties to show political courage and spare no effort to secure an agreement now to stop the bloodshed, to free the hostages and to help stabilize the region, which is still at risk of explosion, Antonio Guterres said in a video address. The UN chief spoke after Hamas said it had agreed to a truce proposal, but Israel said it did not and instead launched a ground incursion into eastern Rafah. This is a crucial opportunity that the region, and indeed the world, cannot miss, Guterres said of the peace talks. I'm disturbed and distressed by the renewed military activity in Rafah. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.